So today I'm going to start a new project. I'm going to install a hoist in my shop. And the reason I'm doing that is, well, it would be nice to be able to lift things, and I'm not getting any younger. So I thought having a hoist in the shop might be nice because there's other times where I want to lift things that are pretty heavy. So today we're going to start that process. I'm going to install an electric hoist that is made by Vevor, not sure how you say that. It is the YX440-1 model, and it's capable of doing 220 pounds or 440 pounds. And that depends on the configuration of the hoist and if you loop the hook back so that you get more lift capacity out of it. So pretty cheap unit, hopefully cheap in price, not in manufacturing. But one of the things we're going to do here today is we're going to unbox it. First, here's the hoist. It's got a little bit of weight to it. Let's open it up and see what we got in this thing. Looks like we've got some unboxing instructions. Okay, we can do that. This comes with straps to lift things, some instructions. Those might be important at some point. And it did seem very specific on how I lift this out of here, so I want to be careful with that. Here's two brackets, which in the end you'll see that I will not be using, and I'll show you why in just a bit. Okay, this is the control unit for it and power cord. And what they have me doing here is lifting it like this part, get it out of the box. Easy enough, and I believe that's it. Got a little bit of weight to it. So this is the hoist. Got the hook, the stop for the safety, control unit with your up and down, emergency stop, and plug. And we've got the extra pulley. We may be using that. That'll be for if we loop it around and don't attach things directly to this. We'll install that on the cable itself. So we've got to be a little bit careful with this. They did not want you to lift it up by this or this. So they were very specific about lifting it up by the hard metal, or the metal part of the case here. Okay, now I had to go get some things. And I also had to order some things from online. Let's see what we have here. One of these is the pieces that I'm going to install to hang the hoist. Now this is going to go on a Unitrack, Superstrut, whichever you prefer to call these. And so this box here contains the brackets that we will be using to mount this. So let me slide this out of the way for a minute. This is the bag that came with the hoist, with the parts to mount those brackets that we're not going to be using. We may use these bolts though. And so this part, the puzzle. Okay, another piece of the puzzle. There's the bolts. Now these bolts, I believe, are going to be able to secure this over the track, which will be doing that as part of the hanging part of the installation. So these are very nice. Yeah, I'm very impressed with these. Really nice nice weight. And the bolts to go with them. So that's going to be one important part. This should be the other. Yeah. Oh, that is very nice. It's a 6-roller unit, made really well, or at least it feels like it is. Really nice weight. Basically, these will take the place of these, and that's because they're going to go on the track, which is a 10-foot piece. You can get it at a big box store. Fairly heavy. Standard 1 5/8 by 1 5/8 inch track. So in theory, we're going to take this track. Hopefully it fits. Yeah, looks like I might have to fiddle with it a little bit, but it's going to fit. Much better. That will allow the bolt to go through there to clamp that on there, and then this bolt will be used, or this hole will be used to secure the bolts going up. Now, I have exposed joists in my ceiling. You can probably see them behind me there. The right thing to do would be to put probably threaded rod through here, most likely 3/8, apply washer, nut, and secure that on there. And then take the threaded rod all the way through the bottom of the joist, that 2x4, up into the next one and into the attic, and then cap that off with washers and nuts as appropriate. That's what I should do, and it's what I will do, not today. I think heat index like 104 today, and I'd have to go up in the attic to secure that off. That's not happening right now. Now, this rod weighs quite a bit. This hoist weighs a little bit, but I'm not going to lift more than 200 pounds. And this is going to be across multiple joists with hopefully 6 supports. So I think I'm going to be able to get by with just using bolts into the bottom part of the joist right now. Now, I know that's not ideal, but I have faith that that's going to be adequate for this right now. I don't plan on lifting 440 pounds or any more than that. 200 pounds probably the max I'll ever lift with it. But at some point, probably this fall, I'll get out here and I'll go ahead and run the threaded rod all the way through. That would be a design decision, up to you. Of course, use safety first, but I think it's going to work well for me. All right, so I had to go by the store, in addition to these parts you've seen so far, and pick up some extra parts. And as you can see, there's a lot of slop. I could have definitely gotten a thicker bolt. So I will probably, when I get my down rod, consider that and get a thicker set to go up there. Basically, we're going to cap it off with a washer, lock washer, and then there'll be a bolt. And then that will be through the 2x4. So that's the goal of what we're shooting for. Now, I did get some accessories because really address what to do with the wire, meaning the power cable and what you're going to do with that. And I've got a 10-foot piece of track. Now, I probably have no need to move it 10 feet, but, you know, it's there. I'd like to be able to. And what do you do with the wire that's hanging down? So when I was looking around, I found these. And I think these will do the trick. So these are some rollers, 2 rollers for this piece. And my thought is, I've got 4 of them. If I can wire tie or attach the wires to this, and then I've got 4 of these, I can basically loop the wire. And then when I go to pull the whole unit out and across, the wire should go with it, and then the wire should collapse if I go the other way with it. So I think that'll work, but we'll find out. There's probably some flaw to my logic. We'll see. I think we've got everything together, and we're ready to go to work on this. These are cool. Okay, we're going to start some assembly here. There do not appear to be a front and back, so I do not believe it matters how we mount these. Now that washer is probably too small. And now I'm starting to get a little more concerned about the length of the bolt. So I may need to go get a longer bolt. That, or I need a bigger washer because you don't want it to fall down inside. If I get a bigger washer and replace this, I think we're okay. Okay, let me go look and see what I have. Sometimes being a hoarder pays off. This is the original washer, and then this is the washer that I found. So I think that's going to solve the issue. So I'm going to be able to get away with basically the lock washer and this is going to be much thinner than the others combined. So I think we're going to be okay with this. So we're going to try this again. Yeah, that's much better. I'll still have to keep an eye on it, make sure it stays centered in there. That's okay. Every once in a while, you find something that, because you just held on to everything, fits and works for your purpose, and then use that to justify your hoarding. You can say, see, I had what I needed. Just like all these pieces that I'm not using. Those will go in bins someplace. I'd like to tell you they were all organized, and some are. I'll work on that one day and get it better organized. Another project to be done. So, next thing I'm going to do is make sure that I have it pretty much in the middle. I always recommend having a ruler capable of finding center ruler if you will. I think they're very useful. And I do not think this has to be exact, but you know, it could be taking a fair amount of weight. You don't want it off center too much. So I'm just going to mark for center. I'm not too concerned with how it looks. Marking it, of course, because nobody's ever going to see this. Okay, zero finder ruler, very nice to have, or center finder ruler. And then I'm just going to line this one to where it looks pretty close. I'm going to snug this down just a hair. Okay, this one already looks pretty darn close. Yep. So, let's check something here. That's not too bad. Let's do a little adjustment here. Try to get these wheels in line so that when it rolls on the track, it's gonna be in line. I think we're about there. Now, if I can snug these down without moving these. Very good. I think that's going to work just fine. Okay, I can pack up these washers and save them for another piece of this project or for something else 8 years from now. That will make me say, oh, I'm glad I saved those. I found the light was going to be in the way of where I wanted to put the track, so I decided to take it down and then move it over later. I wanted the track in the center of the garage door so I could bring the pickup truck in and load and offload from it if I wanted to. And here I'm using a green laser. It's a little bit hard to see up there, but I'm marking where I want the track. Then I'm using a laser tape measure to make sure that I'm parallel with the outer wall, so I just use a few reference points. Using the laser to make sure I stay in a straight line, I'm going to each one of the trusses and marking for where I'll drill for the brackets. And I'm just double checking to make sure I mark the right joist to cover the span of the 10-foot strut. And I'm ready to drill some holes, so I just go to each one that I marked and I drill through. Now I'm ready to put in the first bracket. So I'm going to put this up so I have something to hook one end of the strut into. And I'm intentionally going to leave it very loose because I want it to be able to move around. Actually, I'm leaving them all loose until I'm ready to tighten everything up at the end. And you'll see that in a moment. I'm going to lean the strut up into the first bracket. Notice the 4 that are up there. Those will be the middle pieces. You'll see what we do with those in a moment. I hope you don't mind, but I took the liberty of turning on the belly blocking filter. Nobody needs to see that. So what I'm doing here is hooking up the other end of the strut after I lifted it up the ladder. And you can see I'm just securing that up there now. Once I get the track aligned where I want it, I put the brackets where they need to go. Now I'm ready to install the middle brackets. And I will mention I did have to come from the top of this bolt because there wasn't enough room between the track and the top of the bracket to get the bolt in there. If I had fed them in ahead of time when I first put these on the track in the middle, I could have gotten away with this, but this will work. Now I will mention that I made sure all these were still loose until I'm ready to start tightening everything up, but they all went on fairly well. Now I'm installing the bolts that came with the brackets. These are the ones that go through the brackets and actually clamp them onto the Superstrut. And of course I'm going to have to go through and do this for each one of them. And this goes fairly quickly. And I'm finally ready to go through and tighten each one of the nuts and bolts up. So I hit every point that needs to be tightened and go ahead and just make sure everything's in there nice and snug. Yes, that's a washer. So what I'm doing here is a critical step. This is to keep the trolley from rolling off the end of the track. So this bolt and fender washer nut will act as a stop for that trolley. It seems pretty important. Next come the 2-wheel trolleys, and these will be used for the wiring management. And now the moment of truth. Here comes the trolley with the hoist. Just got to slide this into the track. Looks like it's going to slide okay. Let's give it, I don't know, a little push, and like butter. Of course, there's 2 ends that this trolley could fall off, so I'm going to go ahead and put a stop on that end too, because I'll forget and that thing will come right off the end. Hey, now's probably a good time to mention that if you like this channel and you like what you're seeing, go ahead and subscribe and hit that like. That helps me out a lot with my metrics. I appreciate that. Okay, we just have a few final prep steps here. I'm just making sure everything's undone, ready to go. Make sure everything's snug. Plug the unit in, make sure it has power. And then I have to take this wrap off this cable. And that was actually a little bit harder than I thought. I used a utility knife. I don't know why I was so careful with it because, you know, it's a braided steel cable, but I finally managed to get it off. And I test the rolling ability of the trolley, probably an excessive number of times, but I was having fun. And it seemed to work well. And a test to make sure the controller and the hoist worked as it was supposed to. Of course, I did this on the ground, but after I bumped it around, I just wanted to make sure everything still functioned. Time for a bit of cable management. I'm just going to hook this wire to these 2-wheel trolleys. And I did some roll tests just to make sure everything was going to work like I wanted it to. And everything seemed to go as I had planned. Now I'm going to attach the pulley to the cable so I can get that 440 pounds of lifting capacity. So basically I have to disassemble the pulley, and it just involves pulling out a cotter pin, as you see I'm doing here with the pliers, and then pulling out the pin in the washer, removing the wheel, and putting the cable through there, and reversing the process to reassemble it. So I push the pin up, put the washer back on, and then put the cotter pin back in, and then of course bend that over so it won't come out. Now I'm taking the hook and I'm going to attach it to a special slot in the side of the hoist. And with that configuration, along with the pulley, through the magic of physics, that will increase the lift capacity from 220 to 440. I wanted to show you a failed experiment. I thought I would use a bungee cord wrapped around the pole to hold the control, but boing, yeah, that didn't work so well, so I had to come up with plan B. I finally decided to just hook the controller to the actual hook, and when I had it raised almost all the way up, I could just reach it to get to the buttons to raise it and lower it. And it's high enough where I won't hit my head, so I think that's going to work fine. And now for the real test of this hoist. This is what prompted me to go ahead and install the hoist at this time. I'm trying to lift a 220-pound drum sander head onto a stand. Yes, that's me wearing steel toes there, just in case the hoist doesn't do its job. But I'm going to go ahead and secure this to the hoist and attempt to lift this. Now, first I do a little test lift just to see if it's balanced. Yeah, it's not quite where it needs to be. So I need to remove some of this packing material and get some things cleared out of the way. And then I'll set it down again and I'll go ahead and readjust and see if I can get this better centered. I don't want it slipping off the edge once I get this thing up in the air. So I do that and I lift it back up. Yeah, I think we're going to be good. It looks good. Yeah, we got the thumbs up. We are good to go. I left the audio on so you could hear what it sounds like. Excuse me, I'm trying to talk here. Okay, are you done? Okay. So I got the head of the drum sander lifted and it seemed to work well. Now I just need to center the cart underneath here. I'll mention this is a temporary cart. I'm eventually going to replace it with something that I build. I'm not going to lie, that went better than I thought. I had a bit of trouble getting the straps from underneath the drum sander because it was so heavy. So I took another strap and lifted it from a top mounting point there. And then that allowed me to pull the straps out from underneath it. Well, folks, I think this was a success. It did exactly what I wanted it to do. And I think it will help in the shop in the future. Perhaps this is something you might want to consider. Might help your shop or your garage. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. And I hope you come back for more so we can learn together.